My name is Kenneth DeDominicis, and I live at Maple Crest Farm in East Hartford, Connecticut. I fell in love with trains when I was a kid, about 5 to 6 years old, when I went in my neighbor's basement and his father had bought him trains. We played with them, and then I decided, Dad, I want my own, and I got some for Christmas the following year. That was the beginning of something that I do still today, collect trains. When I was 8, 9, and 10 years old, I had a next door neighbor who really became like my third grandfather. He took me to the races, Riverside Park, Stafford Speedway, Thompson Speedway, and I had enough money from my paper route to pay for it. So every weekend I went with him, and that's when my enthusiastic interest in cars developed, going to the races every weekend. In my collection, we'll start with trains. I have all 1930s, 40s, and 50 trains that over the years I've picked up. Some broken, some like new, and I got really good at fixing them. In fact, at one time I worked for a hobby shop and I was the train repairman. On the farm, the records show that one of my barns was an actual railroad station in 1906. It became the country store. So when I brought my trains, I set them up and I wanted to make it a railroad station again. I am most proud of my collecting that I have represented all my childhood toys still in their boxes. I was one of those kids where I took care of my toys, and it shows because I still have them today. As soon as I was 16, I saved up my money and I got my first car, and it was a 71 Camaro Rally Sport 4 speed. Oh boy, did I soup that thing up and put loud mufflers on it, and all the neighbors knew I was coming. My favorite car that I own now is my 1973 Chevelle Super Sport. It brings back the old days when I had all these super sports and rally sports when I was younger. Unfortunately, I sold them when I bought my first home. I found a lot of collectibles, believe it or not, in the garbage. I see an abandoned house for sale in a dumpster, or I might see something in the yard and knock on their door, an old barn, eBay. So many different places collectibles come from. I think the best find that I have is my 1923 Durant Star. I happened to be working part time at an agway, and I asked one of the farmers, "Hey, do you got any cars up in them barns?" And he kind of looked at me and he said, "Come take a look." Well, I did, and under a sheet I found this car and I bought it. So after all these years, I've got my trains, my Matchbox cars, all my childhood toys, and the one thing that I want is get my farm all done and have all these things on display. Someday I'll have a museum.